What's up and welcome back to the channel. In this episode we've got a Global MX5 Cup car that we're going to be repairing, so stay tuned. Alright, so we're going to be doing a lot of work to this car. It's hit pretty good in the front end here. I believe we're going to be replacing both the frame rails, but we're going to get this thing up on the frame machine and get it clamped down so we can get some measurements of the inner tub.
Keep all your game, highs and lows, highs and lows. It's all the same, highs and lows, highs and lows. Keep all your game, highs and lows, highs and lows. It's all the same, highs and lows, highs and lows.
Alright, so we got this thing set up on the clamps. We're going to measure out the center portion of the tub to make sure that the center part of the car is correct and square before we go any further.
Highs and lows, highs and lows.
Alright, everything measured out in the center of the car. The links are good and it's squared out. So now we're going to tighten up the clamps and start getting our initial pull done.
Highs and lows, highs and lows. So the same, highs and lows.
Alright, so we got the clamps tightened up. We need to get this cradle out of here. We're going to have to pull, we're probably going to do like an initial pull to get this cradle out of a bind to be able to get it off. So we're going to grab this thing and start tugging on it. Alright, so the UPS man just dropped off some boxes. Let's stop what we're doing on the front end right now and go see what we've got. We got some of the parts in for this Global MX5 Cup car. Not all of the hard hit stuff that we need. Like, we only have one of the frame rails that came in so far. But we did get a door skin, so let's get this damaged door off and get the door skin changed on it. Got the new door skin set on there. It fits pretty good. So what we have to do now is get this little lip bent over, and we're going to use a little hammer and a dolly. And I found when you're doing this, slow and steady works a lot better than trying to just beat it over one hit. Got the new door skin hammered on, so we're going to put this thing back on the car and make sure that it fits the quarter panel, and when we put a fender on, we'll make sure it fits the fender before we, because the skin here is actually still loose on the door frame. The skin will move around a little bit, so before we tack weld anything, We're going to make sure it fits the quarter and with a new fender. Alright, so the door skin fits pretty good so far. We won't really know for sure where it needs to sit until we get the front end pieces and we get that fender set on there. But we do have to repair this quarter panel. And I'm pretty confident, the way this gap looks, I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to pull this out to meet the door and do our repair on the quarter while we're waiting on the front end parts. Alright, so we've got the new door skin put on, we've got the quarter panel repaired, so let's move back to the front end of this thing and see if we can get this damaged cradle off. Alright, so we need to get the cradle off of this thing. The bolts are shrouded, it's going to be tough to get off, so I think we're going to take a Sawzall, cut through here, and we might even use these pieces that are left on there to pull on to see if everything pulls out with that. So let's get the Sawzall out and get this thing cut apart. Alright, so we pulled on this a little bit and we got this bolt unshrouded a little bit so we can drop this cradle. So let's get this cradle out of the way so we can get the rest of this stuff pulled. Alright, so we got the cradle, all the bolts loose, but the dolly that he made, so this thing would be a roller, isn't letting the cradle go down far enough. So we're going to have to solve a problem here. I think we're going to take the Sawzall and try to cut these studs off so we can get this out of the way. Alright, so we've got the damaged cradle out, so now we can start pulling on these frame rails, try to get them close to the place they need to be before we start cutting them off. Alright, so we've got all of our pooling done. Everything's where it needs to be in the respect of its damaged pieces. So our next step is to go ahead and take a sawzall. We're going to start cutting off all this damaged stuff and get it out of our way. And then we'll start drilling out all the spot welds and get ready to put in our new parts. So we've got all the damaged parts cut off the car. The next step is to start fitting all the new parts on. So let's get these new parts fit on the car and start taking some measurements. Right now everything's held together with clamps and bolts for the cradle, and even in the back there, all the bolts for the cradle are in the frame rails here. We've got the new strut tower brace bolted in place. Everything's fitting really well. We took measurements on the bottom side. The frame rails are the right length and everything X'd out so everything is square. We're pretty happy with the way everything is fitting at this point. So now we're going to get all the sheet metal hung on the car. Now we will have to put some sheet metal screws to hold this stuff together because some of these vice grips are going to be in the way of putting the fenders on. But once we do all that, we'll be able to hang the fenders, get the hood hung on here, and check all the gaps. Alright, so we've got everything bolted on the car, and we're very pleased with the results. All the gaps look really good. Everything bolted up really easy. We didn't have to fight everything putting it on. So the next step is to get everything welded. Now we'll leave as much bolted on the car as we can to start the welding process because it helps hold everything in place. and we'll just take it off as we need it to get clearance and to get access to stuff we need to weld. All right, so we got the cradle out of this thing, which gives us a lot more room down here on the bottom side to get the lower welds welded. We also got to get this little plate right here welded in.
The more I get to know people, the more I realize why Noah only let animals on that boat.
All right, so that's all we're going to be able to get done in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, you know what to do. You can hit that like button, you can share this video with your friends, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon, and YouTube will let you know when the next video is coming out. And in the next video, we should be getting this car completed. There's not going to be a lot of paint work because it is a wrap car, but I still have to jam out the car and we have to put it all back together. And the car turned out really good, so make sure you stay tuned for that. If you have any thoughts or questions, you can leave it in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. See ya!